Hi, my name is Mary Wong, and I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist. And I want to welcome you to my live fertility post number 8. Tonight, I am going to be talking to you about my personal struggles when we went through fertility issues ourselves. And before I start that, I just want to say that my book, Pathways to Pregnancy, is currently available starting today on Amazon.com, and it will be available in other distributors like all the bookstores near you and Shoppers Drug Mart as of September 16th. And so in light of that, I am celebrating it through my story because my story is inclusive in my book. And so I guess I'll start with you my story and why I wanted to tell you about it. First, because one of my goals in writing the book is to dispel shame, to decrease the stigma that's associated with infertility, while also giving a voice to those silently suffering from infertility challenges. So I just thought it was really, really important to be able to let you know that you're not alone, and it is written through 15 stories so that you can see that there's lots of different pathways to pregnancy and be inclusive in your options. And one of the reasons why I knew it was really important to tell my story is that, again, back to not creating stigma or dispelling stigma is key. And if I hid and did not share my story, then there's no integrity in that. And even though when I was going through it, I personally struggled with, do I share this with my patients? And when I decided to let go of my fear of judgment, and when I opened up to my patients, it was always received with gratitude, and one in which I was told that, wow, they felt relieved that I understood where they were coming from, and that they felt a little less lonely and less alone going through these struggles. So coming from that, I just knew that I had to share my story and all these other people's stories in order to help those that are suffering outside of just my clinic at Alive Holistic Health Clinic. And so here I am. So what happened with us? Well, when I was 38, my husband was 40, we decided to conceive, and little did I expect to have fertility issues, especially because I kept myself quite healthy because I am in the natural healing modality myself, and because both my grandmothers had children at the age of 46. So there was no way that I can conceive, no pun intended, that I would have issues. So when we did not get pregnant after a year, we went and consulted with a fertility clinic, and in my head, it was probably going to be my husband, right? Because he's the one he's Belgian and he liked his alcohol, and he certainly was not as diligent in terms of taking care of his health, especially in diet and all that. So when we found out that the problem actually was with me, I was in total shock. And what we found out was I was diagnosed with blocked fallopian tubes, and they were not just blocked, they were also fluid filled. So the treatment would be to take out my tubes to make sure that the fluids would not dispel and cause any kind of toxic waste dump in my uterus so that it could prevent implantation. And after they would take it out, then we would pursue IVF, which is in vitro fertilization with in a petri dish. So it was a very difficult decision to try to go through IVF just because I'd never even taken an aspirin in my life, never mind doing surgical procedure and what I considered at the time invasive technology. So in the end, having to go through some mourning for my tubes, we surgically removed them and we did IVF, and we were pregnant, but unfortunately miscarried at the second IVF. So there I had this little dangling carrot saying, oh, I can get pregnant. So all of a sudden I got lured into, instead of just doing one IVF, I ended up doing lots of IVFs, just hanging on to the idea that we were this close and just a little more and we can get pregnant and have a child. So throughout that, going through multiple IVFs, then we were looking at other options. Could we go through other options if we wanted children? And in my personal case, we decided that we could simultaneously try adoption. And when we did that, and it was actually very difficult too, because we did the PRIDE program, which is a parent-teacher training kind of thing, parent training to be adoptive parents. And we also paid for the social worker to come in and to do a home study. And that all took a long time. And by the time we finished, after a year, we were put on a waiting list for China because we were only allowed one stream. And there was no baby in sight. So when we were going through that, then it's like, okay, we're going to go back to IVF. When that didn't work. So while we were doing IVF, then it's like, okay, well, how many IVFs can we really do? Because no matter what we do, even a 20-year-old has a 1 in 5 chance of conceiving, meaning that there's a higher likelihood of not conceiving than conceiving. So add to it, life, my age, and even though I didn't believe that my age was the biggest factor, because I kept my environment, internal and external environments, as healthy as possible. But it's still that physical tubes that weren't there, so I had to do IVF. So how do we help to maximize the eggs, right? So I did acupuncture and herbal medicine. So we really integrated Eastern and Western medicine to help maximize our conception. But even still, knowing that it's not 100%, at some point we have to say, okay, we may give up. And hence we looked at adoption, hence we looked at donor in the end as well. So we did what I call the triple-pronged technique. And in the end, we won the lottery. We have our baby, who is not so much of a baby anymore. Her name is Zoe. And she was a product of a frozen embryo transfer in the end. And to this day, I want to tell you that babies can be healthy, conceived through IVF and conceived as a frozen embryo. And even now, she has a huge affinity to ice. And her little, what she calls her baby, which is like this tiny little animal blanket, we keep in the freezer for her so that it's soothing for her at night to go to bed. Don't know if it has anything to do with being frozen, but what the heck, right? So that's our story. And again, what did I take away from that in which I impart to you? Well, one is never to say never. So you may draw the line at somewhere. And for us, or for me initially, it was like all natural, no IVF. And then somehow over time, the line just kind of grew. So I just say be open to your options, which includes from Eastern medicine and integrating Western medicine. Secondly, I would also say be proactive in your care. And that means getting testing early. So even before you try to conceive. So many of you who are watching this right now, you're probably in a place of, I'm in the middle of this. So while you're in the middle of it, take really good care of your health. And that is through nutrition, through keeping your stress levels as low as possible. But for those who have not even tried to conceive yet, get testing done early. And so you can find out if you do have things like endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome, or diabetes and thyroid issues, male factor issues, things that you just have no idea that you may have. What is it called? Sexually transmitted infections causing pelvic inflammatory infections. So all those kinds of things that can get in the way of trying to conceive, get that taken care of. So being proactive about tests and then being proactive in your health. So that's it. And so that's for tonight. And next week, we will be talking about something else, which I haven't actually thought about. So I'll post that up. And in fact, if you have a suggestion on a topic that you would like me to cover, please PM me and I will certainly look at it and will add them to the list. And if you have any questions that you may have, I'll also cover them in the next live feed. And before I sign off, again, please check out my website, which is marywong.life, and order my book through Amazon today. And my book is called Pathways to Pregnancy, Personal Stories and Practical Advice for Your Fertility Journey. And I'm not sure if you see this backwards because that's how Facebook rolls. And we'll see you next time. I look forward to it. Next Wednesday evening, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I'll sign off now. Take care and be well. Mwah.